So the court and the commercial system was really not in my life, and I just had my views on it, but really hadn't interacted with it at all. I'd been to court a couple of times, like for speeding tickets, or I think once somebody wrote my license plate down wrong on my insurance, so I got arrested for that. That got fixed right away. Just sent it back to the insurance company and they wrote the license plate down correctly. And the judge goes, well, that's fine, drop the charges. So just stuff like that. I was not in and out of court and jail, etc. I was born in Vancouver, and I was a proud Canadian. I didn't vote though. I never voted when I was about 7 or 8 years old when Pierre Trudeau was voted in. I can remember my mom and the neighbor lady talking about the election. They were watching it on TV, etc. And when Trudeau got in, I can remember them going, he's so young and this everything's going to be so different now. And, they were quite excited about it, I think, or maybe a little nervous. I think the previous guy was quite a bit older. So I went, okay, well, things are going to be different now. And I got up the next morning and, I'm just a child. So I got up the next morning and walked down to the neighbor's place to play. And I looked up at the sky and I saw all the birds and everything. And I went, there's nothing different. And that stuck with me. That guy getting voted in, no matter what he did or didn't do, did not really change anything from a child's perspective, which is a really just an honest looking at things as they are perspective. And that sort of stuck with me. And I never did vote ever in my life. Before all this started, I was basically a family man. I had 5 daughters, a wife. I worked in construction installing, and around this time, or just prior to this time, I had moved into sales. So now I was selling the same sort of things that I had installed. I was doing okay. I wasn't like a top salesman because I wasn't a so-called closer or anything like that. But I had really good product knowledge because I'd installed for 10 to 15 years. So I really knew construction and I could explain things to people and they felt comfortable with me that I knew what I was doing. So there was a sort of competing company. It was a sunroom company, a franchise. And the person who bought it didn't know anything about sunroom. So he wanted somebody that could run it for him, basically. And so I took that job and I ran that for a year. And then I ended up in a labor dispute with him. He stopped paying me. He owed me about $16,000, and it just kept going up and up and up. And I could see that there was no chance of him, or little chance of him, getting back to zero. So I started to demand that he pay, and my wife was really upset about it and thought that I was too nice of a guy and wasn't demanding. So then I got even more aggressive, not physically aggressive, but I had sold a job. It was a $70,000 job. I got the go ahead, and I told him I'm not going to actually sign a contract until you give me in writing when you're going to pay me my back pay. And he refused to do it. So I got fired. That put more pressure on the family. When things really escalated, I went online and I researched. And I could have done a small claims court in court, or I could have gone the labor relations route. And I found out that even if you get a judgment in court, you still have to collect. But the labor does the collecting for you, and they will actually shut down a business and like take all the computers and all the desks and everything. And so I went, okay, well, I'm going to do that. It just makes more sense. And so in order to fight that, my previous employer hired a law firm. And I found out later from another friend of mine that it was the biggest law firm in Vancouver. Maybe not in size, but in clout and, third generation, great grandfather started the firm, and, an insider thing. A lot of judges came out of there. That kind of thing. It was a prestigious law firm, put it that way. So when I got documents, they were huge, and I hadn't really read legal documents before. And I got the anxiety and the nausea trying to read this document that was, 60, 70 pages long and full of words that I didn't understand. But what I did was read it and read it and read it until the anxiety left so that I didn't have that scary feeling. And then I just saw the holes in it. I could see the what they were doing and how they were manipulating words and manipulating facts even. And so I just pulled it all out and submitted my reply, and it seemed to work. So they held the judgment, and then part of the system is he can appeal the judgment. And so we had to go to a tribunal. And so that was put off, there was a time delay in order to have this appear. And so I went on their website and I just read a bunch of case law. I just read case after case after case, and I downloaded all the cases that I thought might be pertinent, like they might have some overlap or whatever. And I organized them on little yellow stickies, the case law, etc. And I just went in with that. And when we got to the tribunal, they were very arrogant and laughing, and they thought they were going to mop up the floor with me, and my brother came with me, and so they had this sort of mocking, arrogant attitude. So caught them in a few lies. Plus, I had all the case law, and they would bring up something, they would try something, and then I would slide over the case law on a yellow sticky, and the judge or the adjudicator would go, "Yeah, I'm aware of that case." And so this happened about 4 or 5 times. And after about the fourth or fifth time, the lawyer said, "I think we have to caucus." And the lady goes, "Yeah, I bet you do. Let me know when you want to come back." And so they conceded. So I had no legal experience, and I went up against the biggest law firm in the city and won. The lawyer himself was one of the junior guys, but still he has that law firm behind him. He would have had help, etc. So that, I think, when I look back on my life, that was a training for a bunch of things. Number one, not to be afraid, like get over the anxiety and the nausea of it. Just read it, read it, read it, read it, read things over and over and over. That's something that I did after that. And also not to be intimidated by somebody who has way more skill and or knowledge in the legal system. Once I had won that, I wouldn't say I was confident, because I didn't even know if there was going to be anything else, but it did give me that confidence that, yeah, there's a possibility I can win even against the whole system. So, I just stuck to my guns as I went through the ordeal.